We have a tiny house, and I would say even maybe the smallest I've ever seen, 8 square meters. Here you've got two big storage places that are the length of the bed. And you've got twice this actually. And then once you close again, everything disappears. So the idea there was to have something as minimal as possible that actually has absolutely no visual impact. And everything is made of plywood. I mean, we didn't go complex there. The idea was to keep it simple and to indulge into what matters, into what's important. How do you connect nature to a high-end tiny house, and how do you make sure that you really focus on what matters the most? Here, you got some storage there. Here you got your dishes, same as what they do in the north of Europe, where you dry is where you store. Here we've got your oven, so it's a fully functional oven. Here we have everything for the
recycling.
Recycling as well. There you've got everything you need for cooking. You will have more like a secondary storage. And last but not least, you have a relatively full-size fridge. That is really, really efficient, runs on 12 volts, and it's normally used more in boats and in vans. It's all about efficiency in the end, and how do you make it as self-sustainable as possible. That has absolutely no visual impact, but is fully functional in terms of everything. You can walk, you can sleep, you can heat, you've got everything you need for being able to live and being connected to the outside. And can be totally off-grid. Right now we are being connected, but if you want to, it just disconnects, and it's got autonomy for 4 days in terms of water and energy as well, and he can take it anywhere he wants. So, no, I was going to be living here all year long. Got it. Do you want me to close this? Or? Yes? Okay. So currently our mom is staying there while he's traveling.
Yes.
There you go.
Totally.
There you go. Let me check. It's not about one place. Why make one box? You've got the main module for living. You've got the sauna. It's way more than a tiny house. You've got the outside space. You've got your supermarket.
4 people could easily eat a summer diet at the moment from this garden, but we do need the 4 people right now, and they're not currently always here.
Normally you adapt to a house. When you enter into a house or to a flat, you adapt to a space, you adapt to what you have. That's the opposite. The environment is adapting to the needs, and you're adapting yourself as well to the environment because you rely on the environment to be able to live. And depending on the lifestyle, depending on what's going to happen to the future, who's going to be living there, doesn't have to be one answer or one fits all. So another really interesting part about this place is Noah is actually a Win Hof official trainer, and the Win Hof methodology is based on working breathing and ice baths. So that bath here was specifically designed for actually having ice baths, and the way you do it, and I won't do it today obviously, and you can sit inside, enjoy the view. You sit inside an ice bath, and that is a methodology developed by Win Hof that combines breathing and how to actually increase the efficiency of your body through ice baths. I didn't test it myself, but Noah does it on a really regular basis. And if you combine it with ice baths and sauna on the back as well, that's another particularity there. We have a tiny house, to me the smallest I've ever seen, and quite high-end, so really in line with the values of Noah, which is really into minimalism.
Yeah, it's the size of probably 2 beds.
Exactly.
But it feels much bigger.
It's 8 by 2. There was a lot of time spent in terms of design and space organization, and we went through many iterations to be able to actually get to the point where we're like, okay, we have it, and that's exactly what the client is looking for. Yeah.
Why 8 square meters? Why not 10 square meters or?
We had to go for a number, and because we knew, if you look also at the Leonardo da Vinci reference in terms of human sizes, it all fit in and it made sense to us, so that's why we went for that version actually. And there was a question of weight as well, to be able to be as mobile as possible, so that the client actually could take it out and be able to travel, because it's on wheels.
Okay.
You have quite a few things here that are really interesting. Every single small piece. We had to fit into 8 square meters, like a full-size bathroom. If you've got the shower, you will see how it is. Okay, so here we've got the bathroom where you have a full-size shower with actually a rain shower on top of it. And if you're looking at the size, it's like 120 by 70. So it's bigger than my own shower, for example, at my normal home. On that side, we've got also the composting toilets, which is a unique piece that was designed to have two functions. So you can normally sit on it as you would normally do in a dry toilet. Or on the other side, if you want, you can have the second function, which is for squatting. So more in Arabic countries or some Asian countries, people go to the toilets and they actually squat when they are actually there. So there you can squat and you have a double function. So again, custom made in inox. That was quite a feat to be able to implement it. On that side, you've got the towel dryer. So you don't really see it because it's the same color. And there you got the button on the back, so you can actually turn it on.
Oh, there's the button.
Yeah. If you don't know about it, you don't know it's there.
There's the sink too. I didn't even see
You
it.
have the sink here. Here you got some more storage as well. Everything is indirect lighting inside all of the house because the client is really, really touchy about those things. For internet, we don't have Wi-Fi. It's all based on RG45 as well. But he wanted to have all of the comfort of a normal house. So that's why we have this huge shower, rain shower, and we've got this rack. So when you enter, you can actually close it. That one was made of plexiglass. So when you're inside the shower, you just close it. And so when you've got your rack here with the things drying, you actually don't send water. So I will show you when we close it.
Maybe.
So if I close it here and here, you see, I've got my full-size shower and everything where you are now actually stays dry. So really, really tiny, but even so, that's the smallest house we've ever done. That's the biggest shower we ever done, actually. So that's quite interesting.
So you're packing a lot in this door because there is also some function on this
Exactly.
side, right?
So if you look at those spots, functionality was a key item. So on that side here, you can see you've got your dressing. But if you're changing yourself, how do you actually look at yourself? And so within the door, what we did was we integrated this mirror directly that you can open, and you've got this full-size mirror. And so from there, when you're actually changing yourself, you can actually see all of it. So, and we need to really calibrate a bit that part so it doesn't close alone. But that's a bigger mirror than I have in my own house as well. So that was a really interesting part there. So full-size dressing, and then if you think about storage, we're looking at the kitchen, but that part here is you have more storage, and at the top, at the bottom here, you have some more storage as well. And that door. Right now it's being used by our client's mom who's staying there, but actually that's going to be the working station. And that door turns into a table. You simply grab the door and then you open it and then convert it, and there you have your table.
So where would you sit?
In their case, you will be sitting directly on the bed, or you can take it outside. And in the case of our client, the way he sits, he actually squats. He doesn't sit as you will do more in the Occidental world. So it will be more sitting like this normally, like you will be squatting in Asian countries. And so you will be exactly at the level you need, or if you need to, you could be actually sitting like this as well. So you're exactly at the height you need for working, for having tea, or having friends over.
And really an indoor-outdoor lifestyle.
Exactly. That's really was the goal there, how to be connected to the outside. And as you can see, the outside is absolutely amazing in terms of size. And the terrace itself is, I believe, 3 times the size of the tiny house itself. So you can really see where the priority is there. You're looking at the sea. We are really close to Barcelona, but at the same time, you feel like you're being in the middle of nature. And that's really what the client wanted. He wanted to be connected. He travels a lot. So he needed a place where he could easily get access to an airport or to any international connection. And at the same time, when he's being at home, be totally self-sufficient.
The idea is that wherever you look, there's green, there's nature, we're going back to being connected to our surroundings. And also there's food. There is, all sorts of food or beneficial plants. Like here, these plants will help us keep the mosquitoes away. There is plants for cooking, plants for eating, more plants for eating, plants for the bees. This is pomegranate, and there's some pistachios there, and we've got the sunflowers, and we're going down and we've got all sorts of okra, and we're stepping on strawberries. So it's like, food everywhere. And this is kind of like the vision as well. Like you can have an edible landscape and not have too much of an impact, because this is what we see from a permaculture perspective. The originators back in the day, they were also looking at the ancestral tribes in their surrounding and seeing how they actually live their role in the ecosystem and not take too much, but actually their taking is also beneficial for the landscape.
So basically there's no sacrifice in like giving up grass or giving up ornamentals. There's no sacrifice here because it's beautiful.
Yeah, indeed. We don't want to be losing out on beauty because we also want to have the mental benefits here. So we don't have to forget that. It's like often people feel like when we have to live the permaculture lifestyle, we have to sacrifice. And we think that sacrifice is a no-go word. We're just going to be co-living with everything. And even if it doesn't have immediate edibility, we can still see its beauty because it is creating soil, it is creating the space for wildlife. In this particular case, we're in a small lot. It's only 1,000 square meters, so we're trying to go bio-intensive, as they call it. So use and stack and go more vertical. Because of this being a suburban property and a smaller lot, we think that, yeah, stacking functions and stacking up going food in vertical ways. So there's lots of ways of looking at that. Of course, here we have some garden beds. We have the natural vegetation as well. We're looking at some plants that were here way before we all came in. So also the idea is gradually changing what was to what can be. So seeing the potential of a place, but not maybe immediately going in and rah, trying to work with nature and step by step feel what the place wants to be and can be. These are like raised up garden beds. One, because it's easier for the ergonomic way of gardening, let's say. So more people can be enjoying gardening and don't have to be bending down all that far. So the bed can be no wider than this, for example, because we can reach the middle. And from the other side, you can also reach the middle because we don't want to be stepping on the soil because that would compact it. So we don't want to be stepping on the garden beds unless there is one spot where we can have a foot. So this is like the ideal width of any garden bed. In this area in particular, in the Maresme where we are, we have this Sauna soil, which is like very hard to work with. It's granity type sand with very little organic matter in it. So in these containers, we have more opportunity to create more fertility and keep it in these containers. So right now we're at the end of the day. So we are seeing the garden breathe and take a break from the hot sun all day. So what we are trying to do here is make sure that the top number one strategy is covered, and that is cover your soil. No naked soil. So here we've been using locally sourced wood chip. This is what a forest would naturally do. You know, the material would fall down from the trees, cover the soil, and it would be building up the microbiology, and this is when you start creating fertile soil. But when we're looking at annual vegetables, we would like less fungi and more bacteria. So that's maybe also why the containers are a good idea, to be able to prepare our own soil mixture and give it the structure that we need for annual veg.
Are we seeing some of the process down here? Or no?
Yeah, this is a lot of material that was cut back and that is now being saved to make further soil. So this is basically a huge composting bin, and the cardboard is keeping the hot sun off. We do want to be watering this as well from time to time, because just like this, it won't be making the best of compost in the fastest time possible. Right at the bottom, there is connection with the soil, so the bugs and the worms will be doing their work right there. But what we want to be doing is keeping the sun off. So we've seen the orientation of the plot. It's early morning until midday, early afternoon sun, and then it moves off. So it's okay here.
So you're creating a new bed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look at the size of these beets, amazing. And there's some green peppers, and these aubergines also, they go over meter high. So it's, we've got a lettuce tree.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
This might not be the nicest one flavor-wise, but it is giving shade to the soil. It is making structure and microbiology in its roots. Also, if we want to cut this off, we're not going to pull it out. We're going to cut it off at level, ground level, so that the roots can break down. Their tunnels that they leave behind, they are aerating the soil again, and the carbon in the roots are also food for the microbiology. So this is a no-till bio-intensive gardening where we try to have the cycle complete itself. All the bugs on there. Sometimes also it's like catching the bugs that we don't want to go to other plants.
Okay.
So this is again the companion plants. Sometimes we want to attract bees or other pollinators, and sometimes we want to keep some of the insects away from our food and have them go to the detractor, which is then the flower that is hosting the plague, as they sometimes call it. Lots of food can be grown here.
It's so interesting how too that I see like lettuce growing right underneath some eggplant, and it's not just, you don't just see rows of lettuce with then nothing, you know, or
yeah, indeed. Well, this is again one of the permaculture principles, trying to stack functions and also go vertical and make the best of all the microclimates. So if we know that a lettuce won't survive a hot summer's day, why not give it some shade under another plant that's going to go up higher? This is a lettuce also about to bolt and make flowers. The flowers are beautiful, and then they are also good to go on the salad that you make, or they're good food for bees.
and then I see that you even just have like a fruit tree right in the middle that's kind of, you know.
Exactly, yes. This one in particular is an almond, so it will be rather a dry land tree. You know, look at these pine trees, the pine nut pine trees. They've been planted actually no more than a couple of decades ago, and it was because the people were told the pine nut is a good produce. Let's get them in and we can make money from it. And right now they are actually one of the bigger risk factors that we have in these forests. So if we think back to the time of the Romans, this was all oak trees, and we were living a diet based on oak acorns. Permaculture often gets mistaken for permanent agriculture as a limited concept, only agriculture. But what we are aiming at is to design ecosystems as a whole and not just our food production. So we want to be changing the use of resources that may or may not be available in our ecosystem. So now I'm talking about water or sun.
So here we've got what we will call the brain of a tiny house. Everything related to energy, water. So as a start, what you will get is a traditional gas heating system. That is what we call neuralgic center of the house. That manages everything related to electricity. If you connect it to solar panels, if you go off grid, that central here manages everything automatically. The battery is always full. Then you've got the 220 inverter, all of the 12 volts connections. We even have a converter from 230 to 24. That's your internet part here. The router is outside to be able to actually avoid. There's a connection to internet via cable, and that part is more related to the autonomy. So you've got a 200 amperes lithium battery. If you look at that red button, you can turn off all of the 230 volt of the tiny house. So you just stay with the 12 volt. So if you want to, you can even reduce more the possibility of emissions by sticking to 12 instead of having 230. So the fridge automatically can run on 12 and 230. And if you think about hot water and cooking, it's run on gas, so you don't really care. So all those elements, that's really what makes your tiny house run. And everything there is automated. And what you don't see is that below the bed, there is a 100 deposit. And the water that runs through the tiny house always goes through the deposit and then into the house. Meaning that if tomorrow you want to disconnect, the deposit will always be full and always with fresh water. And here you can see the tank test. You can see it's always full. And if you go off grid, then that's what you will use to be able to know how much water do you have left. If you were to disconnect it like right now and just pull it to another place, you will have water running, you will have electricity, you will have gas, and you could use it any way you want.
For how many days?
Depending on your consumption, between 4 days and 1 week. What would be the limit might be the time you spend in the shower. We've got 100 liters of clean water there. In terms of energy, we use a 200 amperes lithium battery, so it's really, really powerful. It's way more than what we actually need. We've got 3000 watts of capacity inside the tiny house. So So before you reach 3000 watts, you will have to connect a lot of different items inside the tiny house to be able to get that. So we have speakers that are hidden in the roof. So if you close the window,
What kind of window? The hydraulic?
they're hydraulic, yes. So we reused a hydraulic system from the car industry, and you've got speakers, and they're connected by cable directly inside here without using any Wi-Fi or any Bluetooth. All of the installation inside this tiny house is for electrosensitive people. So it runs on low voltage, and all of the cables are being connected to the ground. So you don't have any emission of electricity inside this house.
So there is no electromagnetic
Absolutely not.
fields around you while you're sleeping or working?
No, absolutely none. So you can see here, you got the RG45 connection. So it's like the old school connection for internet that's connected to a router outside of the tiny house.
So it's basically a physical network.
It is a fully physical network with absolutely no type of
Waves.
microwaves or anything like this. And they're everywhere. So you can be sitting anywhere you want, and by just plugging into a cable, then you can be working without any interference.
Okay.
Then you also have USB-B and USB-C.
Okay.
So you can plug them. All of those are the lights for the kitchen and inside the bathroom. So it's all connected and ready to go. Okay. A few other things that you might like as well here. We have the table.
Another.
We have another table for working. So when he's working, he wants it to be standing. He doesn't sit. So it's way more efficient for him to be working there. And inside here, you've got the space for storing your MacBook or your computer or anything you want.
It's tiny.
I think you could fit in a 17 inches laptop inside there, but not more. And that one here, you can store mobile or anything you want there, and then there's some extra space. So that's really his working station there. And when he doesn't need it anymore, he just closes it and everything disappears. So inside the house as well, you have natural cross ventilation. In small spaces up, you have a lot of humidity being generated by the environment and by human being inside. So if you have an excess of humidity, on the long term that might be an issue. So the entirety of the house structure uses what we call breathable walls. So the walls, they breathe per se. There are 5 layers from the outside to the inside. You will have the external wood that's thermo-treated. You don't want to use chemicals. Then you have 2 centimeters of space, so you can have ventilation across the entirety of the house. Then you have the rain barrier. Then the isolation in the wall is a mix of cáñamo, lino y algodón.
It's hemp, linen, and cotton.
Exactly. And then inside you have a last layer, a vapor, not a vapor barrier, it's a vapor breathable barrier. So depending on the humidity level between the inside and the outside, it will open itself and close itself. It's 6 layers if you actually include the 2 centimeters of hair that you see in the back.
You said hair.
L'air ambiant en français.
Air.
Air. It all started with the goal of how do you create a sustainable house that does no harm to the people living in it or the people building it. And tomorrow if you were to destroy that house, it's 100% recyclable. Another thing that's quite interesting, for each construction we do, we use screws outside. We don't use nails. Why? Because if one of those pieces break, then you can replace it easily. Like you can see here, you see they're all screws. You can unscrew them. It's all about the long-term vision of it as well. How do you make sure that if you build something that's gonna last, but at the same time that you can easily fix it and replace parts. And one particularity as well, you might see those holes there. You can actually lift the tiny house up from a trailer and you can separate the trailer from the house. If you were to say you want to be more permanent, let's say, and you say I don't need the trailer anymore and I want it to be in a fixed base or to be an extension of a normal house, then you just need to pass through those bars, metallic bars inside it, lift up the entire house, take out the trailer, and then boom, lift down the tiny house, and that will become an extension like the one we have there that's fixed actually. That will be exactly the same. So the goal, it's way more than a tiny house. The idea is to create a center for self-sufficiency and excellency in terms of how do you increase the life expectancy using natural methods.
And there's more.
And there's more, actually. This is a sauna. So if you go inside the sauna, you will see that the view is not bad either. Noah also does meetings, professional meetings inside the sauna. It's a good way to relax and have everyone more happy.
Lots of small spaces.
lots of small spaces, but all of them open towards the outside, and everything you need. So that's about getting rid of things you don't need and focusing on what really matters to you, being in terms of relationship, in terms of what you eat, where you live, where you drink, where you sleep, all of that.
And is this a type of sauna?
It's a wooden sauna, so it's not a gas sauna, it's not an electrical sauna, it's not an infrared sauna, it's really purely a wood sauna, which is good because then you can use the wood from the trees being cut on this property inside the sauna. So it always comes back to the same elements of self-sufficiency and not depending on external inputs or external elements. And it always comes back to everything, the Win Hof, the ice bath, and all of the elements around it. It's a quest, a lifelong quest in terms of optimization and increasing your life expectancy and how do you work, your natural self-awareness and your breathing methods and focus and so on and so on. It's a really complex task, and I would say it's something he's been working on for a long time and will be working on for the rest of his life.